Yes, Mr.
Obliged, Chair. We have a witness this morning, Ms. Bowman. Would you go into the witness box, please? Might she affirm?
Certainly. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly affirm to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Ma'am, would you state your full name?
Alexandria Sophia Bowman.
Sorry, we didn't hear that.
Alexandria Sophia Bowman.
Alexandra.
Sophia.
Yes.
And you have given a statement
Yes.
and you have initialed and signed that statement.
Yes.
I'm going to ask that a document be placed in your hand and you'll indicate whether that is the statement which you gave and signed and initialed.
Yes.
Okay, now you need to speak up a little bit, okay?
Sorry, no problem.
Great, because we have to catch what you're saying. The audio has to catch what you're saying.
No problem.
I'll take the statement.
Might this statement be admitted as ASB1, and I have copies for the commissioners. Ma'am, is your address as given in paragraph 1 of your statement?
Yes, it is.
Try to throw your voice
Yes,
in.
it is.
Right, much better, thank you.
Sorry.
And are you employed at the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM?
Yes, I am.
And what job do you do there?
I'm currently an assistant registration officer.
How long have you worked for GECOM?
Approximately 10 years.
Were you assigned to the office of the returning officer for District 4 for the March 20 general and regional elections?
Yes, I was.
And was the returning officer for District 4 for that election Mr. Clairmont Mingo?
Yes, it was.
How did you come to be assigned to work for the election?
I was asked and assigned by the Human Resource Department of GECOM.
Sure. Now I would offer you a seat, but it becomes a bit uncomfortable. Do you prefer to sit?
No, that's fine.
Okay. On the 2nd of March 2020, did you go to the office of the returning officer for District 4?
Yes, I did.
And was this at Ashman's building?
Yes, it was.
Now can you tell us what happened that evening?
From
Did
what
the
I can-
SOPs start coming in?
Yes, they started coming in relatively late. Like, I can't say the exact time, but it was late.
Were you one of the persons assigned to receive the statements of polls coming in?
No, I was not.
What was your role supposed to be?
It was to call when the statements of poll arrived and were received. The clerks were waiting to call the numbers from the statements.
Okay, you dropped your voice there. The clerks are waiting to call the numbers from the statements of polls.
Yes.
Up till the 2nd of March 2020, had you received any instructions from anyone else to call numbers from any document other than statements of polls?
On the 2nd, no.
Now, prior to the March 2020 elections, had you been involved in the electoral process before?
Yes, I was.
Would you say that you were familiar with that process?
Relatively, yes.
Now let's go to the 3rd of March 2020. Did you go to the office of the returning officer for District 4 on that day?
Yes, I was there.
And when you got there, can you tell us what, if anything, was happening?
If I can recall, which I'm not 100% sure, the South Georgetown numbers were being called.
And who was calling those numbers?
I cannot recall the person per se, but I know it would have been a clerk from the South Georgetown area.
So a GECOM employee.
Yes, a GECOM employee.
And what was that person calling from?
At that time, the statements of pool.
Do you recall the 4th of March 2020?
Not so clearly, but yes,
Did you work on that day?
I was there.
Did you, well, to be more specific, did you go to the office of the returning officer for District 4 at Ashman's building?
Yes.
And on that day, what was your purpose there? What were you there to do?
I was still waiting to start calling the results from my area, the area I was assigned to.
Okay. And the area you were assigned to was what, the sub-district?
The Upper East Bank.
When, well, at some point, did you get certain instructions?
When it was my turn to call, I was instructed that we won't be calling from the SOPs anymore, we'll be calling from a spreadsheet.
And can you recall who gave you that instruction?
Not clearly, but it would have either been Mr. Mingo if he was still there, or Miss Miller.
If Mr. Mingo was not available, was there someone in GECOM who would usually carry out his instructions or act in his place, that kind of thing?
I won't say act, but there was a clerk, Miss Miller. She would have been the person that would give us instructions.
And what was her full name?
Michelle Miller.
Now, prior to this, on any occasion when you had worked before for elections, had you been ever asked to use a spreadsheet from which to call numbers?
Not that I can recall.
Well, when this request was made of you, what did you do?
I followed instructions.
And did you make any recommendation?
Well, they told us that we needed to call from the spreadsheet and they wanted to make it transparent. So I recommended that we use a projector to get the numbers up on the wall so that the parties can follow along.
And were you successful in getting a projector?
We obtained two different projectors, but neither of them were showing brightly enough on the wall because they didn't have a screen. So we were trying to get it on the wall and they weren't working properly.
Now, on that day, when you were at the office of the returning officer, did you have access to the SOPs?
No.
Could you tell me whether you made any observations about the envelopes with the SOPs?
Most of the envelopes were at the back of the office, right in Ashman's building. They were at the back.
And did you make any observations? Was there anyone around? What was happening?
There were some persons at the back, I think the clerical assistants, that were typing the numbers into a computer.
Typing the numbers into.
A computer.
Where were they getting the numbers from?
The statements of vote. The statements of vote. How the office was situated, there was the back half, the clerks were sitting on the right-hand side, and the statements of vote were with them. After they were received by Mr. Mingo, they were at the back there.
And would this have been in the tabulation room or
Right
in the
in the
joint room?
tabulation room, that right there, right in the tabulation room.
Okay, and so they were opening the envelopes?
I think most of the envelopes were already opened by the returning officer, but the envelopes, they were at the back there.
And party agents were witnessing this process?
They were in the room. I don't know if they weren't there to witness the process, but they were in the room.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, what you have just described with the clerical assistants at the back and so on, that was not part of the verification process, correct?
No, that was not part of the verification process.
But on any occasion, when you worked for elections before on the part of GECOM, had you ever had the experience where the SOPs were opened and numbers put in somewhere else before they were called by the persons assigned by GECOM?
I have never witnessed it, but I know that in previous elections that the returning officer would have his or her own special team that would deal with the statements for as they collected.
Okay. Now, when they told you that, when you got the instruction that you now had to call from a spreadsheet, did anyone assure you or give you the reassurance that you would be able to refer to the SOPs if required?
No.
Now, when you were told that there were persons at the back typing information into laptops, can you recall the name of any of the persons there working on the laptops?
Well, I know it would have been a clerical assistant, and to be honest, I'm not sure all of them, but I know Mr. Lyman from my area was one.
And is this Mr. Enrique Liban?
Yes, Mr. Enrique Lyman.
So, on the evening of the 4th of March, did you start calling numbers for your area?
I did.
Well, explain to me what you did.
After I was told to use the spreadsheet, I asked to get the spreadsheet. Apparently nobody could have provided a flash. I provided a flash, I gave it to Mr. Lyman. He went, he got the spreadsheet, and he put it on the laptop that was on the desk that I was supposed to call from.
So essentially, Mr. Lyman put the data
Onto the laptop.
onto your flash drive, your personal flash drive, and you,
As a means of transporting it to the
right,
laptop.
and you put that data onto,
He put it in.
He
just-
put it
well,
in.
he just handed me the flash.
right. And then you, I take it you opened up a document and
The
you saw a
that-
spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Saw a spreadsheet,
yes.
and did you then start calling from that electronic spreadsheet?
I did.
Can you now recall whether, while you were calling, any other GECOM employee was making a record of the numbers which you were calling?
No, I don't recall.
And I take it you are not in any position to say whether the numbers on the spreadsheet which you were given actually reflected the statements of polls numbers.
No, because I was not able to compare them.
So you started calling from this spreadsheet. Will you tell us what then occurred?
As I began to call, there were some objections from the party, from the PBPC party.
Okay. And what did they say?
that the numbers that I was calling did not reflect what they had.
And were there objections from other persons as well?
No, not that I can recall.
And when they objected that these numbers were different, what occurred?
There was just back and forth and a lot of noise between them and
Between who?
between the party persons and persons from the other party.
Okay, when you say the other party, you mean the other major party?
The other major party that was there,
Okay, and that would be APA?
APNU, AFC.
Yes. Now, have they been making any objections?
Not that I can recall.
So the party agents started to quarrel and so on,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes,
Now, what I want to ask you is this. You said you started calling numbers and there were complaints that these numbers were different from the SOPs,
Yes.
which the agents had. Did this happen on one occasion only?
no, more than one.
Can you now recall how many times there were objections with respect to differences in the numbers on the spreadsheet as opposed to the SOPs?
I can't say exactly how many times.
At any point, did anybody in the room, any of the GECOM employees in the room, bring the returning officer's SOPs to you so that you could verify it with that of the party agents?
I cannot recall that happening.
Now, while all of this was going on, you received a certain instruction from Ms. Miller.
Keep calling.
You have to say it loudly.
Keep calling.
Call.
Keep calling.
calling.
Keep calling.
Oh, no, I told you keep calling.
Yeah.
And did she say why you should keep calling in spite of the fact that there were these claims of differences in numbers?
No, I didn't get an explanation, just to keep calling.
Did you follow her instructions?
I did.
And can you explain why?
There was a lot of noise and I was 7 months pregnant at the time and I just wanted to get it over with.
Now, if instructions had to come to the clerks in the tabulation room and Mr. Mingo was not there, were you all able to go up to the offices of the DCO or the CEO?
No, somebody would usually come down and deliver a message or so.
So, was there a GECOM employee who was the liaison between the CEO and DCO and the workers downstairs?
Not sure if there was any specific person.
Okay, but if instructions had to come down, who would bring those instructions?
Different persons.
Now, I want you to have a look at paragraph 13 of your statement. Just take a quiet read.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I think I misunderstood your question just now. You asked if there was somebody that would bring the information.
sure, understood.
No, it was, Ms. Miller would be downstairs.
Yes.
But if they're sending a message from where they are to downstairs, they would send it to somebody. The CEO or the DCO wouldn't come down themselves to Ms. Miller.
Right, and then Ms. Miller would pass it on to
Yes.
you all. Correct. And this is Michelle Miller.
Yes, it
Now, you told us that there were exchanges between party agents in the room and so on. And at one point, the table that you were sitting at had been moved.
is. Yeah. I don't know if they were about to fight or if they were just arguing with one another, but they were pushing and moving very wherever.
Okay. And where was Mr. Livan at this point in time?
Somewhere in the room.
Did he do anything to assist you?
No.
When these when the party agents started complaining about the differences in the numbers on the electronic spreadsheet, did Mr. Livan, who had brought the flash drive to you, come over to you to see whether there was any error or something that he could do?
Not that I can recall.
At some point, while all of this is going on, did you see the Deputy Chief Elections Officer?
Yes, after the uproar in the tabulation room, I told them that I'm not feeling well because somebody pushed a table and hit my belt. So somebody, I can't say who, but somebody went upstairs and they got the DCO, and she came down and she asked me if I was okay, and I told her no. She sent and she called the chairman and she came down. She also came to me and asked me if I was okay. I told her, I think she asked me if I was okay to continue. I told her no, and they told me I can go. So I left. And
Okay. And the reason you left is because you were heavily pregnant and this was your first child and you were very concerned about basically the rising temperature in the room.
yes,
And well, were you able to speak to the DCO about what had occurred in relation to the differences in the numbers on the electronic spreadsheet?
no, I just assumed that she was up to date with what was going on.
So did they allow you to leave?
Yes, I was told I can go.
And did you go home?
I went straight home.
And did you work for the election again?
No.
Next day you went to the doctor who recommended bed rest and you tried to call your colleagues at GECOM but you couldn't reach anyone, correct?
Correct.
Up to this point in time, has anyone in GECOM asked you to explain what occurred that night?
No.
And what became of the flash drive, your personal flash drive?
I never got it back.
Did you ask for it?
I did ask for it.
From whom?
I called the CEO's office and asked if I can get back my flash, and I was told no.
And was Mr. Hetzberger the person you spoke to when you called?
Yes.
Can you tell us what he said?
No, it's evidence now.
He told you no, it's evidence now. What about the personal stuff that you left there? Did you
I
have
didn't. I got back the binding copy of the law that I had in the building. That's the only thing I got back from the building.
And what did you not get back?
Just basically stationary stuff that I
Oh,
took from the
station,
building.
And as far as you know, Mr. Livan and Ms. Denise Bab Cummings are still working at GECOM.
Yes.
One question.
These are my questions.
When, in relation to you having left because of illness, did you call Mr. Hetzberger and request you?
A long time after, a really long time after. Like when I got back, after I had the baby and everything, and we resumed work, then I asked for my flash.
And that would be what, months after?
Months after.
You said 6 months?
About
8 months after?
yeah. Because that's when we had the whole shutdown, and that's when we resumed work.
Right, and that time too it's evidence.
Can I just get?
Bowman.
Good morning.
Do you have your statement? Paragraph 8, if I could ask you to look at it, please.
Pardon?
Paragraph 8, if I could just ask you to look at
Yeah.
it, please. There you say, I observed envelopes with SOPs coming to the office were being opened at the back of the room, then passed on to clerical assistants who were typing information into laptops. I know Mr. Enrique Levan was one who seemed to be working on a laptop. I cannot recall this being part of the process of any election before, where numbers are inputted before the SOPs are called. No, I remember that Mr. Giddings, I think his name is, who is the person in charge of
IT.
IT, had come before us and testified that he had a team to whom SOPs were also delivered, and they were doing separate work with the SOPs. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you said of the paragraph 8. Did that have to do with the work that Mr. Giddings and his team?
No, their team was located on the second floor.
I
This
see.
tabulation was happening right in the tabulation room downstairs, the RO's office.
So, you saw these SOPs and envelopes, you saw these envelopes being passed?
I know
there.
they were at the back on the table where the clerical assistants were.
How do you know what were in these envelopes? Did you go and look?
I didn't go and look, but I could see anybody that was.
I'm just, remember.
No, I understand.
I'm not from the jurisdiction, I'm not
No,
familiar with the.
when the
process.
SOPs come in to the office, they come in these yellow envelopes.
Yeah.
So when the returning officer takes them out, the yellow envelopes are just packed and left there, and then the statements of all are right there. So the envelopes are there, the statements of all are right there.
This is in the tabulation.
Right in the tabulation room. Anybody that looked across to that
Slowly,
area would have.
slowly. I know it's
Sorry.
it's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, anybody
Yeah.
that looked across to that area would have seen both the
Okay, slowly. So, but this situation that you described at 8, this was happening in the back of the tabulation room?
yeah, well, the room is the way how this room
Yeah,
is
we've
set
seen
up.
we've seen the
Yeah,
room.
so it was right at the back of the tabulation room.
So in this room, there were party agents and so on?
Yeah, the party, this is the same room that we were calling in, so the parties were right there. Afternoon.
No, party agents didn't object to what you described then?
No. Not that I can recall anybody objecting.
You didn't see or hear anybody
No.
object? As you say, it would have been an odd thing in the sense that in your experience, you never saw that before.
Not really odd, but I personally never
You've
saw it.
never seen it
Yeah.
before? But party agents made no objection?
No,
As far as you were aware?
as far as I'm aware.
Nobody expressed dismay or
No.
surprise or, what are you doing opening those envelopes?
As far as I know.
You don't know what information was being typed into the laptop?
No, I cannot see.
You just saw, well, tell me what you actually saw.
I saw the envelopes, the yellow envelopes,
Yeah.
and I saw the statements of hold on the table. There were persons sitting at the computers.
But just, you have to help us out a bit more.
No.
I'm not trying to suggest evidence to you, I'm asking so I find out. Did you see people looking at the statement of polls and then as if they're typing information? Or you just tell us what you
I'm not
actually
sure.
saw?
I saw the statements of poll, I saw the persons typing, I saw the envelope.
Or you don't know what was being typed?
No. I can't say with definite certain that, oh, it's definitely the statements of poll.
You just saw the envelopes open, statements of poll,
And the
and
persons
somebody
typing.
working on it. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
A person who is working from a statement pool and working on a laptop,
You will see them
and
picking
if
up.
you were looking at that person, Let's just assume the statement of poll is here, where this piece of paper belonging to me is. This is the laptop. Person is inputting information from the statement of poll into the laptop. You are likely to see,
Like I
it's
said,
the action we want to find out. Did you see that action looking at the statement, because you were seeing the statement of poll?
yeah, I was seeing.
So you're seeing the statement of poll, you're seeing the laptop, you're seeing the person.
I'm seeing more than one person. There were more than one person.
I understand. The person who is with the statement of poll, laptop, and working, as you say, was looking at the statement of poll and working on the laptop?
I cannot say. The reason why I cannot say, the same way they were saying, I think they were supposed to also be sorting those statements of poll.
Sorry?
Sorting the statements of poll.
On the laptop?
No, the physical statements of poll, they were supposed to be sorting them.
But you don't know what work they were doing?
No, I can't say definitely that they were definitely typing what was on those statements of poll.
Okay. Now, you said Mr. Liban put a spreadsheet on your flash drive.
Yeah, because he was asking for a flash drive, and even though I'm fully aware that all the clerks excepting me received a flash drive, nobody could have seemed to produce the flash drive. So my personal flash drive that I had, because of all what was going on and the noise and ready to call and so on, I gave him my flash drive to transfer, because he said he had to get the spreadsheet to the laptop that was on my table, because I was sitting waiting to call the numbers.
Yes.
So I gave him the flash drive to bring the stuff to the computer.
And did he tell you what was on the flash drive? That
He
you-
said the spreadsheet that you got a call from is on the flash drive. I think he even opened it up because I didn't know the name of the document, so he opened the document up.
And did you ask him where he got the information from?
No.
He didn't ask you?
No, I didn't ask him where he got the information from.
So you were prepared to call, not
Yeah.
knowing where the information came from?
He said it's a spreadsheet. He was at the back with them all the time, so I figured he knew where it was coming from. I was given the stuff to call from, and I called.
No, that's not my question. My question is, you were prepared to call without knowing where the information came from.
Yes.
And on that spreadsheet, when you opened it, you saw that votes had been assigned to different political
Poll.
parties.
And the name, I think the names of the polling stations were there.
Right. Okay. And that flash drive, you have not been able to retrieve because someone named Hensberger told you it is now evidence.
Yes.
Do you understand or do you know whether that flash drive is still in the possession of GECOM?
I don't know where that flash drive is.
Are you still employed at GECOM?
I'm still employed at GE.
You never asked recently?
From the current CEO.
The time when you asked?
No. Well, since those persons left, the CEO, the DCO, Mr.
Since
Hesberger.
what, please?
Since the CEO and the DCO and Mr. Hesberger, they're no longer there.
Yeah.
I never asked nobody because I figured nobody knew that comes in would know what's going on.
When the DCO and the CEO came down,
CEO didn't come down, just the DCO and the chair.
the DCO and the chairperson came
Yeah.
down. Now, they asked you if you were okay. We understand it and we appreciate that given your condition. But did they ask you what this commotion was about? Because you said there was a lot of noise.
Yes.
People were making objections.
Yes.
Did they ask what this commotion is about?
No. And likewise, I assume they already know what the commotion was about because everybody was being loud. So it wasn't like a secret what they were worrying about.
They didn't ask anything about what the noise was about.
No.
They just asked you if you were okay.
Yeah.
I see. But they could have heard when they were coming down what
Yeah.
the objections were.
I would assume they would have. Because
was loud.
Yeah, it was very loud.
And people were saying things like, the numbers called from the spreadsheet don't correspond with the statements of poll. That kind of objection was being
Yes.
raised. Yes, and on the 3rd of March, you saw a tabulation exercise that you were familiar with, you had experienced it in past elections, information from statements of poll being called out in the presence of party agents.
Yes,
But on the 4th, that changed.
yes.
Did you ask why we were changing it?
I think I did ask why, but I don't recall receiving an explanation.
Nobody explained why
No.
there was such a change. When you said Mr. Lyman was working on the laptop,
Yeah, he was one of the persons at the back.
did you see or hear him invite party agents by announcing, I'm going to put the information from statements of poll on a spreadsheet, so please come to witness this?
No.
You didn't hear any
Not
such?
that, no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just let's go going back to the paragraph E.
Sir.
Where will the party,
Pardon?
one moment,
Sir.
where will the party agents situate in relation to where the envelopes, the SOPs will be?
Can I show
Around,
you?
yes, at this place.
See where they are?
Yes,
One party was there, see, the other two tables, and the other party was there.
right.
And there was like a little gap, and then the same angle this table is in, that's where the computers were at the back.
So was there anything obstructing the party agents?
The only
From
thing that
seeing
was
the table.
there, no, seeing the table, they can look straight across from where they are and see
And see
straight
the
down.
table,
Yeah. I think there was a big post there, but the tables were behind the
and
post.
where were you sitting?
I was at the front opposite the parties,
With the,
opposite the parties.
okay, so you were in a position to see the
I can see straight across there.
envelopes being opened.
Yes. Well, like I said, I don't know if they were being opened, but the envelopes, I saw the yellow envelopes there and I saw the statements.
Right.
You don't know if they were being open.
I don't know if they were being opened at the time, but they were separate, like
Right.
the statements of polls weren't in you could have seen the statements of polls.
In other words, you formed the impression then that it had been opened,
Yes,
stating the polls were taken out.
yes.
You actually did not see the removal
No,
of the statement of polls from the envelopes.
no, I was not paying that much attention to the back. I was, waiting to call for the parties.
And during that period, Mr. Enrique Laivan was in the room
Yes. Yes.
where the polls, where the SOPs and envelopes were situated.
We were all in the room, yes.
And as you've read, as you have said here, that process you had never witnessed before.
Not personally, no.
Yeah.
So, Miss Bowman, the observations you made, which you set out in paragraph 8, you made those observations when you were seated across from the party agents.
Yes.
You looked across and you saw.
Yes.
You made certain observations.
I did.
May I just ask a couple of questions,
Yes.
rising out of questions asked by the commissioners? Could you just give us an indication that evening on the 4th, when you went to call numbers for your sub-district area, from the time you entered to the time you were allowed to leave by the chairman and the DCO, how long did you stay in that room?
Calling, I don't think it was an hour. I don't think it amounted to an hour.
Okay.
You don't think it was?
I don't
An
think it
hour.
amounted to an hour.
Oh,
Because it was like as soon as I started calling from those spreadsheets, the party started objecting. And it was confusion.
When the party started objecting, would you pause in your calling?
Yes, I would pause.
And as some order was restored, you would continue?
Yes.
That's how it went for the time that you were
Yes.
calling? Now, did you have any reason to believe that the spreadsheet which you were given by Mr. Livan did not contain accurate figures?
Because of the fact that the parties were objecting, in my mind, I was just wondering if it was the correct information.
So this is after the objections began?
Yes,
But when you
after
started
one.
calling, did you have any reason to think that the spreadsheet didn't or wouldn't contain accurate numbers?
no.
Thank you. These are my questions for this witness.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
You are reading the book.
Yes.
Show us the evidence.
Yes, that is the evidence for today.
All right, the hearing will resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Okay, that one is for Javed's files.